You know Gray Bar for electrical parts, but there's one more thing you may not be thinking of us for that can help maximize your next project's total value. Our pre-project planning services are designed to help you win the bid, save on labor costs, and keep your installers productive across your entire build. The sooner you call us, the better. Because when we're there from the beginning, we can anticipate your needs and help you solve problems before they become problems. Yep, Gray Bar does that.
The final show before the show podcast of the 2016 Minor League Baseball regular season. Hi, everybody. Welcome into this week's edition from MILB.com. I am Tyler Mon. 74th episode. Sam Dykstra in New York City. 74, Sam.
74. That's. It sounds like we're getting bigger week by week.
It does.
Is that just me? I think that might just be.
It does. It's like we add another one onto the tally week by week. It's weird how that works.
Yeah.
So hey, welcome in, everybody. Yeah, it is the last. We'll have playoffs this time. We'll have playoffs to talk about this time next week all across the world of minor league baseball. We actually have some today for those of you who are very excited about the Arizona League playoffs. We're recording this on Tuesday, August 30th, and the AZL playoffs already getting started. They get started tonight, so it is the minor league postseason across all levels coming up here very soon, and we are just as excited for that as we are for being here to talk to you, which is the most exciting thing of our week, everybody. And with that in mind, since we're so nice to you, head on over to iTunes or Stitcher, wherever you get your podcasts, and give us a rating of 5 stars or more if they let you, and give us a review and a subscription, and tell Sam what a nice chum you think he is, because he is. He's a good dude.
Yeah, if you want to find a way to game the system and give us like 7 stars.
Yeah, we'd be down
and
with that.
To have we'd be the only podcast with a rating of 5.5 out of 5.
That'd be awesome.
We would be I wouldn't say forever in your debt, because that just sounds horrendous. And sounds like a favor that could be called back that we can't actually repay. But we'd be very thankful.
Yeah, for a while. We'd be in your debt. I'm not going to say forever, but yeah. I mean, I think that'd be a good thing. But yeah, the Minor League Baseball podcast, the show before the show. I was going to check and see what our rating was right now, but I went to it in the iTunes store, and then it just opens it in podcast. I'm already subscribed, and I can't see. Whatever, just go give us 5 stars. We'll be very appreciative of that. So with that, let's get started. 3 strikes. This week's edition of the Show Before the Show podcast. Coming up here in just a little while, we are going to talk with the top overall draft selection in 2016. That is one Mickey Moniak, who you know better as Mickey Moniak, first overall pick of the Philadelphia Phillies in the 2016 Major League First-Year Player Draft. The 18-year-old out of Encinitas, California, and La Costa Canyon High School in Carlsbad will join the show. He's played 45 games in the rookie-level Gulf Coast League. 285, 342, 413 is his slash line. Mickey Moniak has been pretty good in his debut season, and that's going to be a fun conversation for us to have. And a few years down the road for Mickey Moniak, this conversation will revolve around him when he is getting that call, and that's where we start things in strike one for episode number 74. September 1st, the day that you get this podcast, ordinarily is a monumental day throughout the world of major and minor league baseball, or at least it has been traditionally for quite some time. Rosters expand from their 25-man status for the vast majority of the major league season to the full 40-man roster status for major league clubs heading into the stretch and into October. But as we've seen over the last few years, this has stopped being something that is really a set your clocks and get your popcorn ready to see who's going to be making that climb. Sam, is this a big deal anymore? September roster expansion is really a big deal, because what's become the trend in baseball is when guys are ready, they're going to get the call to the big leagues no matter what, whether that's in April or in June or in August. But the second component of that is if guys are not ready, teams are so much more cognizant and aware of starting service clocks that we don't see that so often anymore, that a guy gets called up September 1st, 30 days added to his service clock. Maybe that brings about a loss of the team's control over his contract status earlier than it would have been otherwise. Is this a big thing anymore, September roster expansion?
I mean, I think it still is, just as a discussion piece. It's interesting in that it's a date on the calendar that we all know about. There are still possibilities there, right? And as long as there's possibilities, there's going to be talking points for people like us, writing points for people like us. And we have to acknowledge it. We can't just say, well, it's a thing of the past now. But you're right. I mean, it is significantly different than it used to be. I did a story last week for the Tool Shed, which was just a preview of what the September call-ups was going to be. And I sat down to see, which of the top 100 prospects are already in the major leagues right now. And it was 16. So that's, roughly 1 in every 6 prospects. We call them prospects because they haven't lost their rookie eligibility yet. 1 in 6 prospect, or the top 100 prospects, is already in the majors. And, so this is a sign, like you said, of a lot of organizations are just saying, if you're ready, you're ready. We're not going to wait. We'll clear out that roster space for you now. We're going to have to do it eventually anyways for guys we're talking about who aren't already on the 40-man. Dansby Swanson, the Braves had to do that. You go back to, the Red Sox had to do that. Andrew Benintendi. The Cardinals did it twice with Alex Reyes and Luke Weaver. When you have a hole to fill, more and more this season, we're seeing organizations turn to guys already in the system. Now, we can get into a conversation, maybe this offseason, maybe a little further down the line of, is this a product of last year? I mean, last year, there weren't so many guys who were considered top 100 prospects who were already in the majors, by late August. They were brought up in September, or the ones who had been brought up were brought up much earlier and had graduated by September. Your Francisco Lindors, your Carlos Correas, those guys weren't considered prospects anymore. So is this a shift in the industry? Is it just a one-year thing? We can have that discussion for a later day. But anybody who expects September 1st to kind of be a bull rush in terms of, this is when we're going to see guys like Manuel Margot, Hunter Renfroe, Carson Fulmer, Robert Stevenson, all brought up so quickly. That's just not the case anymore. I mean, there's a lot of other considerations in there, particularly for guys like Margot and Renfroe. I'll get into it in a little bit, but they're going to be actually playing a little longer. Their postseason their season is going to go beyond the regular season. And if you're a team that is considering bringing up a prospect just to see what he has in the majors, you're more likely to want him to have playing time, which is what they would get in the playoffs. And also, it's a little reward. It's always much more fun to play in the playoffs than it would be, as great as it is to be in the majors, to get there and sit. So, playing for that trophy, playing for that ring, teams will give them a little extra leeway. So, if you're expecting your favorite prospect to immediately come up September 1st, that's not going to be the case. Just because rosters expand doesn't mean everybody on the 40-man has to be up. But it's still significant in that it's a thing on the calendar, and it opens up the possibilities of guys getting their first taste of the majors. But yeah, I would particularly be interested to see, what a team like the Red Sox does with Yoan Moncada. Not on the 40-man now. It's an issue whether he's ready, but there is a hole at third base for the Red Sox. Do they decide to fill that? In that way, September can still be interesting. But there are so many other ways. Jose De Leon, feels like a guy who should be there, but it isn't on the 40-man yet. Should we be talking about him? Should we not be talking about him in that way? That's some stuff we'll get some answers from. But they're not all going to be answered by Thursday. That's for sure.
Pretty interesting stuff. On the one hand, it's kind of, it's used to be such a monumental day in the season, used to be a real big piece of the calendar, and it's kind of not because of the way things have gone. But on the other hand, it means we're seeing so much more exciting talent spread out across the course of the season that makes it a little bit more fun for those of us who nerd out on this type of stuff. So, still, there will still be moves made, and there will still be guys getting that first real taste of Major League action as September hits. And even not necessarily on September 1st, but as teams are either done with the regular season or eliminated from the postseason, we'll see guys continue their climbs up the ladder toward the major leagues as well. Strike two, some of those guys could be in this next mode of conversation. Some more postseason, end-of-season all-star lists have been released, including the AAA International League with some names that are already making pretty big waves at the Major League level. The AA Southern League, the Class A South Atlantic League, as well as the Eastern League at the AA level, and the Carolina League, too, at the Class A Advanced level. A lot of these stories have been kind of rolling out over the last couple of weeks, but now we're getting a rash of them. Who stands out to you among these most recent releases, Sam?
Yeah, the one that I really wanted to talk about, just because I don't think we've talked about him that much on the podcast. I know you and I have talked about him a little bit off air, and we talk about it in the office. But Tyler O'Neill's season just has really impressed the heck out of me. He was a guy last year at Class A Advanced Bakersfield. Shout out to the Blaze in their last week here. Pour one out for the Blaze, but not on the Blaze. We don't want to put them out.
That's like a Ben joke. Nice job.
He's rubbing off on me. This is a problem. Last year in the California League, hit 32 home runs, so had plenty of power at a .558 slugging percentage, 874 OPS. But a lot of us who know what the California League means, we're thinking, okay, that's great. You hit 30-plus homers there. What can you show me outside the Cal League? And he had just a 316 OBP and a 260 average. So wasn't showing much outside that power. What was going to happen when he got to leave, the friendly offensive confines of the California League? He's answered our questions pretty dang emphatically. 24 homers this year, leads the Southern League. 99 RBIs, leads the Southern League. Leads the Southern League in total bases, on base percentage. He's now up to 379 in his on base percentage. So he's fixed some of his plate discipline problems for sure. Slugging .521, and he's also leading the Southern League in OPS. He, if not for average, which he is hitting .297, which is second in that circuit, he would be the Triple Crown winner for your traditional Triple Crown in terms of average, homers, and RBIs, as well as the slash line Triple Crown, so average, on-base percentage, and slugging. It's just, he's, as for a guy who we thought was maybe a product of the level and where he was last year, he's shown to be so much more than that. And everybody's starting to take notice. He's now up to number 65 in MLB.com's listing of prospects, overall prospects. He's now the number 2 prospect in the Mariners system behind their first-round pick this year, Kyle Lewis, who just has tools all over the place. Hasn't played much because of an injury, but O'Neill has turned into the real thing. And as we're recording this, he is just the all-star outfielder on the Southern League end of season all-star list. But they are announcing the MVP on Wednesday, and if he's not there, then it's I think that's a call to riot if that won't be the case. But I feel pretty good saying here that by the time you listen to this podcast, Tyler O'Neill will have been named Southern League MVP.
Tyler O'Neill is fun to watch, and one of the reasons why is because he smashes massive dingers. And a couple of guys who really stood out on one of these recent lists have been doing it at the Major League level. Gary Sanchez of the Scranton Wilkes-Barre Rail Riders and Aaron Judge of the Scranton Wilkes-Barre Rail Riders were named the All-Star catcher and one of the All-Star outfielders in the AAA International League. And that is, just how close these guys are. People don't even really think about them as prospects anymore. Now they're just, look at these dudes who are smashing huge homers at the Major League level. So that's pretty cool on the International League side. One guy who I wanted to recognize, who we haven't talked about at all on this podcast yet, but Rockies prospect Brian Mundell was named the South Atlantic League Most Valuable Player. He broke the minor league doubles record this season with 57 doubles, and he can still add to that in the final days of the season, obviously. Brian Mundell is batting .320, 14 homers, 80 RBIs, 265 total bases in 129 games. He was a Rockies 7th-round pick in 2015 out of Cal Poly San Luis Obispo, and that's pretty cool. We haven't really touched on that, but congratulations to Brian Mundell. Some other really, really good talent on that postseason All-Star team in the South Atlantic League this year. Hagerstown, that team was loaded this season, and their manager, Patrick Anderson, was the postseason all-star skipper. He was joined on the roster by a couple of guys from his squad, including third baseman Kelvin Gutierrez and utility infielder Ian Sagdahl, who's put together a really good season. So some really promising talent on that South Atlantic League postseason all-star team, and those guys are kind of nearing those weed-out levels of the minors. Full-season Class A ball, difficult jump. Full season A to high A, a tough jump. High A to double A, a very difficult jump. So those are keep those names in mind, because now you'll start seeing the wheat separated from the chaff among those types of stars.
Yeah, definitely. And just to go back to Mundell for a second, one thing just to put it into context, he does have 57 doubles this year. Where he plays in Asheville is one of the most doubles friendly parks I think I've ever seen. I remember Ryan McMahon going back a couple of years. I think he led the minors, but he had 46 doubles when he was with Asheville in 2014. So flash forward to Mundell this year, 57, which, doesn't matter where you're hitting. If you're hitting 57 doubles, you're doing something right. You're hitting the ball in the screws, you're putting it in the gaps, that kind of thing. But 40 of those doubles have come in 60 games at home this year.
You're supposed to just say Coors. He's a Rockies prospect.
You
just have to delegitimize it by saying Coors.
Yes,
That's what happens.
I know. I'm sorry.
But
I
instead,
didn't mean to take that away from Brian. Like I always say, you hit where you are, and he has certainly done that for sure. But yeah, it's kind of interesting, those home road splits. But good on him for taking advantage and hitting more than anybody else has in minor league history.
Kind of similarly to what's been going on in the Eastern League this season. We've discussed this a little bit, but the Reading Fightin' Phils have had a fantastic and very fun to watch race for the Eastern League home run crown this season between Rhys Hoskins and Dylan Cousins. Both of those guys have 37 homers, but again, similarly, Cousins has hit 28 of his 37 homers at home this year. 25 of the 37 for Rhys Hoskins have come at home. So yeah, I mean, exactly. Like Sam said, you hit where you are. You can't be penalized for that. These dudes are mashing the ball. They just happen to play at ballparks that are conducive to the things that they're doing. Still, I don't think you'd turn that in if you were any of those guys.
No, not at all. The only thing you hope for is that you're not learning bad habits. I don't think you can learn bad habits with doubles. I mean, It's always good to only aim for doubles, and then if you hit the crap out of one, it ends up being a homer. That's a good habit.
Right.
When you're talking about guys like Cousins and Hoskins, and I'm just using these two as examples. I have no knowledge that they are actively doing this, but I know this happens at High Desert, or did happen at High Desert. When you can just hit the ball out of the park by just getting it into the air, particularly young guys will just try to do that all the time. They just get it up and then let the wind take it. And look, I hit a home run, great. But once you get out of there, that's when you run into problems. So that's more our concern. Isn't so much of taking away from what they have done at these places. You just hope it doesn't adversely affect what they try to do in the future. But Cousins and Hoskins, guys with real power anyways, and certainly doing this in ways that we have rarely seen even at Reading before.
Strike 3 this week, Sam. We are nearing minor league postseason time, as we discussed. There are some interesting races around the world of minor league baseball, and I'm going to start us off here.
Yes, please do, because I think you have much better way of putting this than I ever could.
The International League, the AAA league, mostly headquartered on the East Coast, a bit trending into the Midwest as well, boasts 3 divisions: the International League North, the International League South, and the International League West. The Scranton Wilkes-Barre Rail Riders running away with their division, 84-72. That's 4 games clear of the Lehigh Valley Iron Pigs, 7.5 clear of the Rochester Red Wings, an elimination number of 1 for Rochester, 4 for Lehigh Valley. In the West, the Columbus Clippers, the Clip Show, they've already clinched their division at 79-58, 12.5 games better than both Indianapolis and Louisville. All 3 teams behind Columbus have been eliminated. 3 teams in the North have been eliminated as well. And then there is the politely described dumpster fire that is the International League South right now. The Gwinnett Braves are currently leading the International League South at 62-74 on the season. 12 games under 500, but that's not even the best part. At 12 games under 500, Gwinnett is leading the division And the last place team in that division is only 3.5 games back of first place. Gwinnett is 62-74. Charlotte 62-75 is a half game back. Durham at 60-77 is 2.5 back. And Norfolk, which is 59-78, the worst record in the International League, is 3.5 games back of the Division League. The International League South is the most amazing, I'm going to say it right now, the most amazing playoff race I've ever seen in any sport at any level ever. This is incredible.
It's just, it's reminiscent of one of those like NFL divisions.
Right, where everybody is going
South
into the last week where there'd be 7 and 9.
Yeah, and you're trying to figure out tiebreakers and just, does anybody really want to advance here?
Really, the Jaguars are going to get a division title out of this? Is that what we're saying?
But yeah, with this, it's just amazing how this can kind of work out. The funny thing really is that how packed that division is. But at the same time, you would hope so, right? Like if Gwinnett is going to be 62-74 and leading the division, you would hope they're not leading it by 10 games, because then that just means horrendous things for the other 4 teams. So yeah, it's kind of sad how that kind of works out. I mean, again, this is all kind of frivolous in the minors. We cover wins and losses. Any player development person will tell you they'd much rather see their team win than lose. But at the end of the day, it's what talent are you churning out? And there's certainly some interesting prospects in that division, specifically at Gwinnett. But yeah, that's whenever we have to write that clinching story, whoever does take it, that's going to be an interesting manager interview. Like, so how'd you guys find your success?
Oh man, I hope Norfolk comes back and wins it all. 59-78 right now, 19 games under 500. Really, all you need to do is go on like a 4-game winning streak and hope that everybody else continues playing the way they've played all year. But this is exciting for these teams. They're going to play for something more than that. It's cool.
I mean, you talk about the August doldrums too. Some of these guys, they're AAA guys. They know. Some of them know they're not getting the call in September.
Right.
So you want something to play for. There's nothing worse, than playing out the string in August, just knowing there's no playoffs to go for. All you're doing is counting down the days for the offseason. So between Gwinnett, Charlotte, Durham, Norfolk, they could look at the records every day and just see like, wow, this has not been a dream season. But hey, you could certainly turn it into one, and that would be one of the coolest minor league stories of the year if one of these teams actually wins the whole dang thing in the IL. And it's possible. I mean, these are short playoff series. They are not, your long 7 gamers that you're going to see in the majors. And anything is possible over a much shorter span like that.
You'd so much rather be somebody playing on a team that's 59-78 and only 3.5 back than playing on a team that's 59-78 and has been eliminated for 3 weeks. So it's pretty cool for these teams. Gwinnett and Charlotte at 62-74 and 62-75 respectively boast the second and third worst records in the International League, and they're leading and 1/2 game back of a division league in the International League South. Sam, what's sticking out to you in the playoff races?
Yeah, so I'll kind of keep this shorter because that discussion is just way too much fun and deserves all the minutes it gets. But I mentioned before El Paso and the Padres with Hunter Renfroe and Manuel Margot. El Paso currently leading the PCL Pacific Southern Division. There are 4 divisions in the PCL. There's the American Northern, American Southern, Pacific Northern, and Pacific Southern. So they're leading the Pacific Southern division right now by 4.5 games. They have a magic number of 4. You feel pretty safe about that they're going to clinch that division, get a chance to fight on in the PCL playoffs. And that just makes it intriguing because a couple weeks ago, there may have been a month or two ago, AJ Preller distinctly said, the plan for Hunter Renfroe and Manuel Margot is the traditional September route, meaning the Padres out of contention themselves, not really pushing for a playoff spot in the NL West. They could bring up Hunter Renfroe and Manuel Margot just to see what they have in an outfield that, has lost Matt Kemp. They've even tried out Will Myers out there, even though they've used a lot of them at first base. Travis Jankowski, Alex Dickerson, who was, in El Paso earlier this year. It's a little bit of a jigsaw out there in outfield. They could certainly use Renfroe and Margot just, again, to see what they have there. But when, the GM distinctly says, we're going to wait until September, now, does that mean September 1st? Or because this team is in a playoff race, will they let them play it out, get their get their chances to go for a PCL ring, even a AAA ring. And we'll have to keep kind of monitor that. And, like I said, it was a while since Preller has said that, so has his calculus changed or not? I don't know. But El Paso, if they do clinch, I'll be keeping my eyes on them and how they kind of use Margot and Renfroe, obviously the two big stars of that team, in the postseason and potentially beyond.
Minor League Baseball playoffs starting all across the country, and it's one of our favorite times of the year. It's just crazy how all of these teams, the storylines that pop up in the minor league playoffs sometimes are so different. All across the season, we're focused on prospects. What's the track for development? What's this? What's that? And then all of a sudden you get to the playoffs and it's fun. It's just baseball. It's watching teams, try to extend, keep the final extinguishing of the candle on the season away for one more night. And it's a lot of fun. And like Sam alluded to, I mean, short playoff series make for some really interesting matchups sometimes. There's a lot of player transactions, a lot of guys moving to different levels the last few days of the season. So this is a really fun time of year for us.
Yeah, and I'll just point to one, too. Jason Groom, Red Sox first rounder this year, only had one outing, I think, in the GCL, already brought up to Lowell just to kind of help out that team who is currently leading the Stedler division in the NYPL. They have a magic number of 3. So, those are the stories I love, guys who are essentially ringers, just brought up to help the club in a playoff push and see what they can do for them.
So that wraps up Three Strikes for this week's edition of the Show Before the Show podcast. Coming up next, really excited to talk to the first overall selection in the 2016 Major League Baseball first-year player draft, the second-ranked prospect in the Philadelphia Phillies organization. Mickey Moniak joins the show to talk about his debut season and a whole lot more coming up. Headed to the Gulf Coast League in the home of the Philadelphia Phillies, which is where we find Mickey Moniak, the top overall draft selection for the Phillies in 2016, their second-ranked prospect and one of the most exciting young talents, and I do mean young talents, by the way. Mickey just turned 18 on May 13th, so for all of you who really want to feel old, Mickey, welcome into the show. How's the debut season going?
I'm enjoying it. Just playing pro baseball for a living is it's a dream come true, and I'm running with it. I'm having fun.
The crazy thing about it is, and it's similar for college guys, but for high school guys, the transition is so much bigger because you're going from basically the home life that you've known your entire life. And not only that, but in your senior season, starting to play competitive games, January, February in a lot of cases. Now it's August. I mean, now you've been doing this. You've gone through so much transition and so much change. Are you exhausted by this point in the year? I mean, the last few days of this season with, maybe an Instructs trip ahead or more off-season work. I mean, how do you battle through kind of the last few days of what's been such a long grind just from the start of this calendar year alone?
I mean, you know what? Just, playing baseball every day, it's a blessing. It's something I've always wanted to do. And I think that definitely gets me through it. It's tough, obviously, playing, every day, 6 days a week, with one off day. But, I'm enjoying it. I've met a lot of good guys, all these guys out here are cool guys I like to spend time with, guys I enjoy spending time with. So, it's something that, is definitely a grind, but, I was definitely going into it knowing that it was going to be like this and knowing it's going to be a grind. And, it's definitely tiring at times, but, you're playing baseball for a living and, there's nothing much more you could ask for.
And what's been the biggest surprise so far? I mean, you're playing in the GCL. Not a lot of fans, if any, make it out to those games. You're playing on spring training facilities, spring training complexes. What has been the biggest surprise since you made your debut a couple months ago, going through this process and, becoming a professional?
I mean, I guess the biggest surprise would be, just all the guys you're seeing from on a day-to-day basis. Even in the GCL, you got guys throwing, mid-90s, just great pitchers that, you see every day. And, there's not a letdown. There's never a guy where it's like, oh, this guy's, worse, like a little bit, not as good as the last guy. Every guy is, it seems like they're throwing mid-90s, and you just got to go out and compete and, play your game and have fun.
And Mickey, kind of take me through the draft process for you. Obviously, first overall pick, that's got to be the most exciting route through the draft. You don't have to wait very long on draft day. But when was that kind of apparent that, the Phillies were interested in you at 1-1? or that you had the talent to make it that far. I mean, you had a really great career there in California at La Costa Canyon. But what was it like going through the showcase process, trying to have a normal high school life and then getting drafted first overall?
It was awesome. Going through the whole showcase process, I met a lot of guys that, I'm out in Florida with right now. And, just that whole showcase process really, made me familiar with the guys I'm going to be playing with for who knows how long. But, that whole process was fun. It definitely, got my name out there. And then, going into the high school season, I was just excited to play, my last season with all my friends in high school, enjoy it. High school baseball is, you can't really compare it to anything. It's just it's a fun time playing with all your buddies. And, I guess you could say a couple months before the draft was really when the 1-1 talks, started. And, it was never for sure. It was never for sure thing until, 2 minutes before the draft, my dad comes in. There's a whole negotiation process. You don't know when you're going to go, how it's going to happen. But my dad comes in 2 minutes before the draft, and I was sitting in the chair with all the cameras from MLB Network, and my dad comes in, gives me a little wink and a hug. And, I think I knew from that point on that night was going to be special, and it was. And then, I had a great time, and I'm just very excited to, start a pro career.
Yeah, I kind of wanted to ask you about that negotiation process. I'm sure you were kind of, a couple steps away, at that time, being a 17-year-old kid, or you just turned 18 at the time. Maybe you were a little shielded from that, but, it used to be, you see like the NFL, Joey Bosa just signs now. It was a little different for you.
God.
Yeah, are you a Chargers fan? I guess that's
absolutely. Yeah, I'm a big Chargers fan.
Yeah, so for you get drafted in June, you sign in June. So what was that like? Talking to the Phillies pre-draft about what you'd be willing to take and how that kind of works out, because it's a little different in baseball than some other sports.
Right. Going into the draft, anytime a team that has the first overall pick is talking to you, that's something that's, exciting in itself. You really want to, put yourself in that situation to go there. I mean, money-wise, obviously if you're going number one, the numbers got to be right. It's got to be, a fair offer. And I really feel like I got that. And, just going number one in itself is just such a huge blessing and such an honor, to be named with the guys who've gone number one, in the past. And, that whole process right before the draft, we already pretty much had negotiations done with, and, it was over from then on. I kind of just, spent a little time with my friends and family after the draft, got settled in, and then, I was off, I was ready to go play baseball for a living, and, it's been awesome so far.
Mickey, being a part of this system now, and it's only a few months for you, but the Philly system has been so reshaped over the last few seasons, and very much in large part due to some really savvy moves by the front office. But a lot of the top prospects around you are guys who started their careers outside of the organization. I mean, in MLB Pipeline's rankings, J.P. Crawford number one, here at number two. The next three guys started their careers with the Texas Rangers, and Nick Williams, Jorge Alfaro, and Jake Thompson. So this system has really been – Thompson, I should clarify, was selected by the Tigers but came over in a trade and spent some time moving through an organization with the Rangers as well. This system's been totally reshaped and is one of the best in baseball now. What is the attitude surrounding just how good this talent is? Because, a few years ago, people in the Philly system probably didn't feel that way, and you didn't go to the ballpark every day thinking, no, we're coming again in this division. Now, I would imagine that, especially at the complex, the confidence surrounding all this talent has to be pretty sky high. What is the attitude like for those inside those walls as to what the next few years really hold for this organization?
I mean, it's exciting, just to be a part of it. To look forward to the future of having, obviously all these great guys around you, guys who are going to be, future big leaguers who are going to, solidify themselves, hopefully, make up a championship team. It's exciting to be a part of. And, if you look at all the minor league affiliates with the Phillies right now, I mean, everyone's winning, no one's really, underperforming or anything like that. So that's definitely exciting to look at. And, I'm really excited for the future. And, having all these guys, a lot of guys I haven't met yet, but, I'm really looking forward to, meeting these guys and hopefully, being a part of their team in the future. It's definitely something exciting and, something that I've been put into that's just been, really fun.
Being a California kid, let me ask you this: playing in the GCL can be very taxing weather-wise, and in California, you're going to deal with some heat, some humidity. But how has been the acclimation to the heat, the humidity, the long days, the bus rides, all that kind of stuff in the GCL, where you're playing a ton of day games, you're playing a lot in short succession? How have you handled that, and what is the process to make sure that day after day you're eating right, you're working out right, the fluids that you have to replenish, because that's something that's extraordinarily difficult from the transition from amateur ball to pro ball as well.
Right. Coming into it, I knew it was going to be a grind, and obviously the GCL, I've heard from, Philly scouts, other scouts who, have teams in the GCL that it's a tough week to play in. Obviously, you don't get many fans, 6:30 wake ups every morning, long days at the ballpark, but, you're playing baseball. You got to step back and, realize that you're playing baseball for a living, and, it's been fun. Obviously the Phillies especially have, a great staff around them, all the trainers I've been with, and all the hitting coaches and all the guys that we're surrounded with have been very helpful, and it's fun when you're playing with an organization that treats you well, and I'm just really excited to be a part of the Philadelphia Phillies.
And Mickey, kind of take me through what has been different about you since you've gone pro. I mean, what's something about your game now? Since you are now in a pro system, you've got so many hands, so many coaches, so many more coaches. Just the Phillies organization trying to mold you into a future major leaguer. What's something about you as a player that's different now than it would have been, in the spring when you were still playing high school ball?
Just knowing that every day is going to be a grind. Obviously, you show up to the ballpark at 6:30. Tissue prep, early work, all this stuff that, in high school you don't really do. High school baseball, you kind of just show up to the field and play. But, it's definitely, it's been fun getting to know the ropes of, minor league baseball and then professional baseball, getting there early, getting your work in, and then, putting in the time, and, hopefully it shows on the field. But, it's been something that, I've kind of ran with, and I'm really enjoying.
And is there something in your skill set that's been different, or are they just letting you be you here so far? Is there like an approach that's different at the plate, or anything that you're doing differently in the outfield? What about that kind of aspects?
I mean, they definitely worked with me on things. For the most part, they're just letting me be me. I know what I can do on the baseball field, and there's obviously always room to grow, but, for the most part, they just let me do me. Obviously, do a little outfield drills and just little minor things that, could help me be, a better outfielder. And then, obviously, just hitting the cage. Something's a little off. You talk about it. You go and you watch a video. You have all those resources. But it's just been they basically let me do me so far, and I'm enjoying it.
All right, and I have this last final question. We can see if Tyler has something else, but today is Ted Williams' birthday, and I came across a story of your grandfather, Bill. Played 6 seasons in the Red Sox farm system. Got to know Ted Williams a little bit. Got to use some of his lessons. Passed them on to you. What is one particular piece of advice that you got from your grandfather that you think of every day, or you think of when you're at the plate? Something that he got from Ted Williams and has passed on to you. What specifically is something there?
I mean, the main thing is, when you go to the plate, you own the pitcher. It doesn't matter if it's, the best pitcher in the league or just some, everyday guy. You own whoever's on that mound, and you go in, count, he makes a good pitch outside corner. So what? Let him have it. 0-1 makes another good pitch. So what? You're really looking for your pitch, and then you get down to 0-2. That's when you gotta, get on the plate, put the ball in play. But the pitcher's never going to beat you. And, that's just a mindset that I've had, and that's something my grandpa passed to me, which Ted Williams passed to him. So, I've just been grateful for everything my grandpa has taught me, and, obviously my dad and all this stuff, being surrounded by baseball at an early age. It's been really fun.
Not a whole lot of people get to say the phrase, as something my grandpa has passed to me, that Ted Williams passed to him, and that's pretty awesome. I do have one final question for you, Mickey. When you get home as a Southern California guy over the offseason, whenever it is, when you finally get home, what is the first meal that you go for now after several months away? What's the thing that you're just like dying to get to when you get back home when the season's over?
It has to be my dad's home cooking. My dad loves to cook.
Good
pot
answer.
roast and mashed potatoes. So I'm really looking forward to getting home. He loves making his food. He loves doing all that. I mean, I'm happy. I mean, I couldn't be happier. Getting that good food every day. It's been awesome.
Okay, someday when Sam and I end up in Southern California, we're going to ask for a trip to the Moniak household and some pot roast because that sounds amazing now.
To heck with In-N-Out. We're just going to the Moniak.
Doors are always open.
Mickey Moniak is on Twitter, the second-ranked prospect in the Philadelphia Phillies organization. You can find there at Mickey Moniak, Moniak is his last name, in case you've been living under a rock and didn't know that by now. Mickey, congratulations on an awesome first season, and thanks a ton for giving us a few minutes, and we'll be following the rest of the way this year and on into 2017 and your debut in full season ball, man.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.
Ever since earlier this week, I've wanted to get this conversation underway to talk to our good friend Benjamin Hill about something that has irked me for days now about his most recent story up at MILB.com. And so we say hello to Ben. Hello, Ben.
Hello, Tyler. Hello, Sam.
Hello.
So, Spokane, Washington, Avista Stadium, home of the Spokane Indians. We talked to Ben about his Northwest trip last week and the week before.
And the week before.
And the week before that. And Avista Stadium, one of the jewels, you kind of compared it to, Reading's First Energy Ballpark, in which they have really taken an old-style facility and made it feel new, made it feel like a classic minor league ballpark that doesn't feel like an old ballpark. And so, obviously, great facility. Great fan involvement there, really well-run organization. But something that I did not know is this really fascinating story about a safe that was uncovered in the floor at Avista Stadium, and I want you to take it away from here before I jump in with what's been eaten at me.
All right. Yeah, because it all comes back to what's been eaten at you and the things that keep you awake at night. Yeah, so this is something I actually did write about when the story first came up, but Avista Stadium, Avista Stadium? Avista Stadium.
I think it's Avista.
I was there, so I mean, how would I know? No, Avista Stadium. It didn't always have that name, but it was built in 1958. It's obviously one of the older stadiums in all of minor league baseball, and as Tyler said, it's a beautiful park, and the front office staff does a great job with it. But it's old. It was built in 1958, and therefore there have been renovations through the years. And they were doing a $3 million renovation project in January of 2013 in the lead up to the 2014 season. And they were redoing the administrative offices, and under a rug, which itself was under a filing cabinet, construction crews found a floor safe, a circular cylindrical vintage safe in the floor. And they went up to the guys working in the front office and said, "Do you guys know you have a safe here?" It was made by the Gary Safe Company, and very old design, very vintage aesthetic, and no one in the front office currently had any idea that it was there. And that's exciting, right? You find a vintage safe buried in your stadium. And so the team was like, "Wow, that's amazing, that's cool," and they solicited fan suggestions for to say what could be in the safe, and they planned or they at least batted around the idea of a opening day 2013 promotion where they'd open the safe before the game. And when you have a stadium that does go back to the 50s, that can boast arguably the greatest minor league team of all time in 1970 managed by Tommy Lasorda and featuring the likes of Steve Garvey, all the players that have come through, all the history that's come through, it's easy to let your mind run wild and say, like, what crazy cool artifacts are in this safe? So people got excited about it. And then the team, upon further consideration, said, nah, sometimes the not knowing is better than the knowing, and we're just going to keep it a mystery. So they went through the entire renovations and literally just did the renovations around this little safe on the floor. And I went in there and I talked to Otto Klein, the team's vice president, and we had a conversation when we were standing right above the safe. The team had to do a little bit to make sure no one would trip over it. It has a little metal panel on it in the middle of the floor, and it's very unobtrusive. And if you were in that room, you probably wouldn't even know it was there. And it is not opened. And so there's a safe dating back, who knows how long, but probably a good 50 years in this stadium that people walk on and by every day that has never been opened. And they said, we could open it. There's people who do this, legally and are able to open safes. We could get someone to do it, but we just choose not to. But we are, we kept it as part of the design in our office, and it's just like a little quirk of the stadium, and that's that. So it's, in a way, it's a non-story that I'm talking about here.
Well, were you able to read between the lines? Like, is there a reason why they haven't done? I mean, it's itching at me that they're. I mean, it's almost like an itch. Like, I want it scratched. I want it just done with. Is it because they haven't come up with a good enough promotion behind it? Are they worried that something's in there? Like, did you see anything in their mannerisms or kind of outside what they were telling you that would make you think why they aren't opening this stupid thing?
Well, I'd like to clarify I'm a jovial minor league baseball reporter and not a hard-boiled detective trying to get to the bottom of this. I was not checking Mr. Otto Klein's mannerisms for any tells when I was interviewing him. I really did get the sense that I think after, not that they hyped it up a huge amount, but I think after everyone got excited and they put it out to the fans, I think the front office maybe got some cold feet and thought, well, most likely it's empty. And if it's not empty, it's probably just some old paperwork or ticket stubs or what have you. And probably, back when it was first covered up, it was empty when it got covered, and there's probably nothing to it. So in a way, it's more fun to dream about all the wild possibilities than to be confronted with the harsh truth that it's nothing. And I believe that's a life metaphor.
But no, it's not, though. That's what's bothering me.
I was going to say, it's more fun finding $1 million in there.
Exactly. Like, what if it's, like we're missing out on solving the greatest thrillers of all time? What if there's an explanation about the Georgia Guidestones in there, or the Somerton Man? Like, we're missing out on so many possibilities here. I love that one of the theories, though, is that it's Tommy Lasorda's Black Book.
Yeah, because if there's one man who had a full roster of ladies, it was definitely Tommy Lasorda. It could be Tommy Lasorda's Black Book. It
really eats me, though. Like, ever since I read this story, I've thought, like, well, I mean, even if it is Tommy Lasorda's Black Book, like, that's fascinating. It's a good piece of history. But it's popped into my head at random occasions throughout the last few days because I want to know so badly what it is. What I do think is really interesting, though, we do not often talk about minor league baseball teams and their restraint.
And that's true.
A crazy promotion. So it's kind of funny that Spokane saw this and was like, you know what, we're going to leave this. It's best left unknown. Because not a whole lot of teams, I feel like, would go that route.
That is true. If you surveyed 160 teams, 159 current ballparks, and said to all of them, we found a safe in your stadium, and here are your options of what to do, I think Spokane is in a huge minority of saying, let's just leave it be.
You know what?
But hey, here's to that cool Pacific Northwest reserve.
It's a mystery unto the ages, minor league baseball. Yeah, no, I'm not cool with it, Spokane. I really want to know what's in that thing.
Well, hey, we can start a grassroots movement. I've read the story. We're talking about it here on the podcast. Hashtag
Spokane safe.
Spokane safe, I guess, yeah.
I'm going to go to change.org and start a petition right now. See if we can get.
There you go. Go to change.org and we'll go with it.
See if we can get POTUS to respond. And speaking of POTUS, look at that.
Wow, well done. well done. I was wondering where you were going with that change.org.
Thank you. So that takes us to our next topic, which is the 2016 Bob election staged by teams owned by the Gold Clang Group. Here it is. Fans are given a choice between a bobblehead of the Democratic nominee for president, Hillary Clinton, and the Republican nominee for president, Donald Trump's hair. 500 of each of those were made available, and the first to have all of them selected was declared the winner. 4 teams took part in this: the Hudson Valley Renegades, the Charleston River Dogs, the Fort Myers Miracle, and an independent team, all owned by that group. And Donald Trump defeated Hillary Clinton in all of those, which is something. and but is not binding. It's like the Brexit vote. And also was incorrect when this was held in 2012, in which Mitt Romney defeated Barack Obama in that Bob election. But as I understand it, at least, the Electoral College does not recognize these votes in the real election. But anyway, just kind of take us through this electoral process here, Ben.
Yeah, the Gold Clan Group has been doing the Bob election since 2004, and other teams have since taken the idea, even if they don't use the Bob election term. Mahoning Valley did it last week. I believe Lakewood and Hickory have some coming up. Potomac has one coming up. But the Gold Clan Group did it first, and as you said, they have affiliated teams currently in Hudson Valley, Charleston, and Fort Myers, and the independent St. Paul Saints. And this is the fourth year they've done a Bob election, the fourth election year. In 2004 and 2008, the fan Bob election results did predict the eventual presidential winner. And as you said, in 2012, Mitt Romney won the Bob election, but he did not win the presidential election. But here we have a case where Hillary Clinton is leading in all of the polls. And yet in all of the Bob elections, Donald Trump won, and easily, by a lot. He had over 60%. With all three of the affiliated teams, 55% in St. Paul, and it was landslides, and even more so in that some of the teams, such as Fort Myers and Charleston, did have various third-party options, not in bobblehead form, but things that fans could choose in lieu of a bobblehead. So I think Fort Myers was the most extreme, and in Fort Myers, it was 59.9% Trump to 28.9% Clinton. And, this is a swing state that is currently going Clinton's way, and Trump got double the votes. And it was like that everywhere. So as one who's concerned for the future of America and for democracy, I tried to find reasons why this maybe was not going to be indicative of the 2016 presidential election results. I talked to Nate Courant, the promotions director in Charleston, and I was kind of hoping he'd say, yeah, everyone just loved the idea of a Trump bobblehead. It wasn't because they loved Trump. But he said, I don't know. It was hard to tell. And, the people have spoken, and this is the way it went. So Trump has swept the Bob election, and this might be a sign that Trump is stronger than we believe in comparison to the current polls. And just the way it went down.
My theory is it's that he has a hat and a tie on the bobblehead. I think it just looks more appealing when there are accessories with the bobblehead. I think if I saw two bobbleheads, one was just in a business suit, one had a goofy hat on, I think I would go with the goofy hat.
Yeah, Trump is a more striking bobblehead because he has the red base for the, being a Republican in the red state, and that contrasts well with his dark suit, but it's accented by his red tie and his red hat. It is a more aesthetically appealing bobblehead. Hillary Clinton has the blue base and then an all-blue power suit, so it's just this kind of blob of blue where Trump as a bobblehead really does look better, and I was hoping it was a more aesthetic choice. And the fact that Trump, whatever your opinion of him, is a more interesting character as regards the quotability and just the fascination with what he'll say or do next. And I'd like to think that some people are just like, hey, I want a Trump bobblehead because just as something on my shelf, this is something that it's more visually striking. It's something that will kind of give me more joy to look at and laugh at and remember the year that he was the Republican nominee.
Oh, boy. Remember 2016? What were we all doing there?
Yeah. Woo! But you know what? I'm getting a little partisan here, and I really have tried throughout my career, as all of minor league baseball does, and keeping it bipartisan and not injecting my own opinions into it, and just letting the process play out. And the Bob election is one of the few politically themed promotions that you'll see teams do, because usually you don't want to alienate a portion of the ballpark. But with the Bob election, you're saying, hey, we'll give you a choice. And that, as I said, did include some third-party options. The Miracle had a third-party party that fans could opt for with like a discounted ticket for an all-you-can-eat thing taking place at the ballpark. And you could get a Jill Stein, like a beer stein. And Charleston offered, in lieu of the bobbleheads, you could enter a drawing to win a one-way trip out of the country on Election Day.
I mean, I would like to think that it has something to do with, the base of minor league baseball and who's going to these games in the first place, outside of just the fact that like a Trump bobblehead is realistic and that his head goes up and down and side to side and all over the place and makes all sorts of goofy movements like the man himself. But yeah, in your talking or in your estimation, does that have something to do with it? I mean, we're talking about a lot of these teams play in suburban areas, noticeably whiter audiences, that kind of thing. Would that demographic maybe play a role in this, perhaps?
I think it's possible that minor league baseball as a whole might be a little more conservative and right-leaning than America as a whole, but it's really tough to tell. I mean, you're talking outside of the Bob election markets, but you are talking about 160 teams, markets across the country, so you are going to see a lot of diversity in that. But I do think that the minor league fans might skew a little more conservative than America at large.
Election Day 2016 is coming up on Tuesday, November 8th, and no matter what, go out and vote, because that is your duty as an American citizen. But what you can also vote for, Mascot Mania is down to its final 4, and this really is quite a power group, and I'm going to run you through them. We had the voting, the preliminaries, all done. We've wrapped up in all 4 of our regions, and from those 4 regions, the South, the West, the Midwest, and the East, these are your final 4. DJ, the mascot of the Dunedin Blue Jays, Rhubarb the reindeer of the Tacoma Rainiers, Ferris, who is the Aberdeen Ironbirds mascot, Ferris not spelled like Ferris Bueller, Ferrous, which apparently means of or containing iron. And what a surprise, if it's a thing with a vote, there has to be a Royals candidate there. So Stormy of the Omaha Storm Chasers, and I don't mean that in a disparaging way, I very much admire the Royals voting block. Stormy won the Midwest region, so we're down to the final 4. We obviously can't take picks, but this was we got a lot of votes. This has been a lot of fun doing Mascot Mania.
Yeah, and I've given up. Danny Wild, our good friend Danny Wild, MILB.com contributor and jack of all trades. He solicited some quotes from me for his article introducing Mascot Mania, as well as the one updating fans as we enter the finals. And I try to give some quotes and predictions, and I was way off, or not way off, but pretty off in selecting who might be the finalists. And now I hesitate to say who's going to win this thing. DJ in Dunedin is, to me, a baffling finalist, with all due respect to DJ. But coming from Dunedin, the lowest drawing team in the Florida State League, which as a whole kind of struggles to draw, and being a fine mascot, but just a parent club referencing mascot, nothing out of the ordinary in the mascot world, how DJ came to win the South is a surprise for sure. He's certainly the dark horse thus far, so you can't count him out. He got this far. Stormy, I'd say, is not too surprising. As you said, a Royals affiliate, a team that's been in the market for a long time and can really rally the fans to vote. And there's a lot of fans voting for this who don't have, the proverbial horse in the race. It's a randomized matchups when you went to vote, not in the finals, but previously. So a lot of fans would just go and vote until they got bored, and it was just based on aesthetic decisions and whatever they thought, whose picture looked better, or however you decide these things. So who knows how it goes? But yeah, we got a reindeer, and we got a blue jay, and we got a storm, a meteorological referencing green thing. And I don't know what Ferris is. I guess is a bird. He's an iron bird. Yeah. He is a bird made of iron. So here we are, and I wish I had more to say, but it's baffling. But it's
right
fun.
Now,
it's fun.
DJ's leading in the final 4, just ahead of Stormy. Rhubarb the reindeer checks in 3rd, and Ferris is 4th. This would be one heck of an upset. This is like Dewey defeats Truman if DJ takes this win. I'll be very impressed for all the reasons you noted.
Yeah, I will too. So
go vote.
Everyone. So go vote. It's not over until the fans are done voting.
I also love that Aberdeen tweeted a picture of Cal Ripken standing next to DJ and said, "Cal has his back. How about you? Vote for Ferris." Or just standing next to Ferris. Sorry, Ferris. I didn't mean anything by it. I had DJ on the brain. I'm sorry, Ferris. Anyway, you can go to MILB.com right now and cast your ballot for Mascot Mania. Also, there's more, in addition to the Bob election story, there's more in this week's promo watch, including Quixote, the coyote, but it's funnier if you pronounce it as if Quixote is a very exotic coyote who's the Frederick Keys mascot. He apparently as well is running for president. Quixote launched his campaign earlier this week. The Potomac Nationals, as Ben noted, will also be doing a bobblehead giveaway of the 2 presidential candidates.
With real hair.
With real hair. Yeah, that's an interesting thing.
They had Trump and Clinton send them their own hair,
Lots of
and
hair.
then painstakingly taped these real hair samples on the bobbleheads.
Also, Potomac is doing a night in honor of Hamilton, the blockbuster musical. It's coming up on Sunday, September 4th. The Great Lakes Loons, one of my favorite giveaways of the year. Great Lakes obviously came up with a little bit of a redesign for their logos this offseason. One of them is a winter loon, which is a loon wearing kind of a Holden Caulfield-esque hunting cap with the fur lining. They're giving those away on Sunday to the first 1,000 fans at the Great Lakes game, so that's a great one. So go check out Promo Watch. Go check out the story on the safe and let it annoy you as much as it has dug at me all week. And Ben, we'll do this again next week. And I don't know, who knows? Maybe by then somebody will have cracked that safe. I don't know.
Yeah, you never know.
Now that there's so much new increased scrutiny on it.
Yeah. Hashtag Spokane safe.
Spokane safe. Spokane secrets, also an acceptable one.
All right, well, we got to find one and rally the troops behind it.
All right, Ben, we'll talk to you next week.
We will. I mean, you will.
Either way.
Yeah.
Minor League playoffs on the horizon. 74th edition of the Show Before the Show podcast coming to a close. Before we get out of here, head on over to iTunes and Stitcher where you can find us and rate us. Ratings, reviews, subscriptions, always appreciated. We're the Minor League Baseball podcast there. And wrapping up the Show Before the Show. But before we do, MILB.TV, your home for the Minor League postseason, is also your home for the thrilling conclusion to Minor League Baseball postseason races. Sam, who you got?
Yeah, so what I'm going to be paying attention to this weekend, or one series I'm going to kind of be paying attention. It's a slight. I'll let you get to the IL South because I know that's going to be your picks for the MILB.TV, so I'm not going to take your wind out of your sails there. It's kind of like a diet version of that in the Texas League North. Right now, Arkansas, in that the teams are closer to being good. Arkansas currently leads that division, the second half standings, but they are 31-31, so they're evenly 500. Northwest Arkansas, Tulsa, Springfield are the other three teams in that division, all separated by only 2 games. So it will be a fun second half race there. In the Texas League North Division. If there's a team that I want you to watch in that division, it's Tulsa, just because Cody Bellinger, who is one of the top prospects, if not the top prospect in the Dodger system, depending on who you talk to, is just going off lately. I think he has 4 homers in his last 5 games for the Drillers. In August itself, he's got 9 homers in 26 games with a 1.013 OPS. So this is a guy heating up at the right time for the Drillers if they're going to make a push for the Texas League playoffs. Springfield won the first half. This is for the second half. Right now, the Drillers sit a game and a half back of Arkansas for that second half title. Should be a fun weekend. They're also going up against Northwest Arkansas until Friday, I believe. Then starting on Saturday, they'll be taking on those Springfield Cardinals. Either way, whether you want to watch that game on Friday or Saturday, Sunday, it'll be a playoff atmosphere there in Tulsa. Should be a lot of fun. And now with that, what should we be watching in the IL South, Tyler?
Fear not, everyone. Fear not. The weighted schedule has provided drama galore for the arresting conclusion. Thrilling is not even enough. The
arresting. You are not allowed to leave your chair.
To the International League South's epic 2016 race of the postseason. And really, in all reality, this is pretty exciting. I mean, if you ignore the records for a minute, leading into the weekend, Norfolk will be on the road at Charlotte. And again, as we are recording this on Tuesday, Norfolk 59 and 78, 3.5 games back in the division. Charlotte 62 and 75, a half game back in the division. And Durham will visit Gwinnett. Durham is 60 and 77, and Gwinnett leading the division is 62 and 74. But then starting on Sunday, those series switch. Norfolk travels to Durham, and Gwinnett is on the road at Charlotte. So all 4 of these teams will be beating up on each other over the weekend. And in the end, somebody's going to come out with a division crown. So be tuned in all weekend and early next week, all of it at MILB.TV for the, like I said, the arresting conclusion of the International League South. And I don't mean it because it's like something that you're sentenced to watch in these teams that are 12 and 19 games back, in some cases of 500.
There will be questions. There will be quizzes. Who of the IL South will take the Iron Throne?
It's going to be something. It's going to be something. Watch it. It's minor league baseball's most thrilling race to the finish line. And when that's all done, minor league playoffs start next week, and we will talk to you then. We'll be doing it from across an ocean, which will be bizarre, but that'll be a whole pile of fun. And we're excited for it. We'll break down some playoff races. We'll break down some September call-ups and get you set for the off season, which is so weird. But, yeah, we're at that time of year. Can't believe it.
Yeah. Actually, before we go, have you told the people where you are going to be this week?
I don't know. Did I mention that last week? I don't think I did.
I don't think you did. So just take this time now before we go to tell the people where you'll be and where you'll be doing the podcast from next week.
Well, it's currently 4:05 Mountain Time on Tuesday the 30th. So in 16 hours and 20 minutes, I'm going to be getting on a plane, Denver to Los Angeles to Tokyo, and then Tokyo to Busan, South Korea, where this weekend I'll be doing play-by-play for the Women's Baseball World Cup from the World Baseball Softball Confederation. I will have games in Pool C, which includes the United States, the second-ranked team in the world. A whole lot of people listening probably did not even realize United States women's baseball team. Most common question I get is, oh, softball? No, the women's baseball team, second-ranked team in the world. They're behind Japan. In my pool, I'll have the United States, number 2, Australia, who is number 3, and then Hong Kong and Chinese Taipei. So all of those, I'm doing 2 games each day, the 3rd, 4th, and 5th. Those will be available on YouTube, so anybody who is really interested in watching games at weird hours of the night, I'll tweet out those links, and you can watch some baseball from the other side of the globe, and it'll be fun. But, yeah, we did a podcast from Taiwan last year when I was over doing games for the Premier 12 tournament, and this year we'll do them from Korea. We're crossing all kinds of time zones off of the show before the show bucket list, I guess.
Yeah, and as always, the first thing I'll say is, can you believe this sounds instantaneous?
This is nuts. The technology of the internet.
We're in the future.
Yeah. It's going to be crazy. I'll give you the lottery numbers. I think I made that joke from Taiwan last year. I'm in the future, and here's how you become a millionaire. Not how it works. Not actual time travel, sadly.
We're still here.
Wah, wah. But yeah, so next week we'll do it from across an ocean. We'll get you all set for the minor league postseason and more. And thanks for tuning in for another week on the Show Before the Show podcast, episode number 75, the Diamond Edition. Right? Isn't that it?
I have no idea. You could be making that up.
Just the California League this year was 75 years, and I think their logo had a diamond in the background. So we'll call it the Diamond Edition next week.
Let's go for it. Yeah.
Very apt for baseball. We'll talk to you then.